All right, YouTube, Repo Man 64. I found a mathematical equation, but I need help. This is not my strong point to figure out distances in between uh, just dates like this. Before I get started, in the comment section below, you could help many of us figure this out. And I'm really curious to see how this pans out. 2025, as we know, is the Jubilee year. It can't be disputed. 1406 is when Joshua crossed over into the Promised Land. That was a Jubilee year. And that's when the Jubilees began, which means you can count from that year back to creation, which you can. And then from Joshua forward, it lands in 2025. The next Jubilee year will be in 49 years. So it would be 2074. So the rapture is going to occur in 2025, but we have all missed something. And lately I see, I mean, the mockery has gone off the chains, off the charts, and I've even seen some larger channels apologize, and no apologies are necessary. If God didn't want us to try to figure out the times, he wouldn't have put so many dates in the Bible. He wouldn't have guided us to all of these dates. Now, while I understand Matthew 24:36 says we won't figure out the day or the hour, there are plenty of other verses that say if you're not watching, you're not going to figure out the day or hour. Do we have a contradiction? Or is Matthew speaking to a specific group that they will not because they won't be able to figure out the date of the rapture? Now, once the rapture occurs, who's that group? Who's Matthew speaking to? Because once the rapture occurs, you can literally count 1,260 days of the two witnesses. You can literally count from when Satan goes in and proclaims himself to be God. You can literally count how long the Jews will be hidden by God, uh, uh, by God for the purpose of protecting them from what's coming in the last 3.5 years. The tribulation is 7 years. I know there's out there that are saying it's now 5 years, or they're trying to accommodate their old timelines. They won't change their ideals. Secret broadcast cape bug just hanging there. It's gone. um, they won't change their ideals because they're hanging on to their ideals, and we can't do that. We have to be able to bob and weave with information that's coming in. And I have something, in my opinion, is probably a huge piece of information. This morning, I was talking with Spinebreaker and Tony from the Cataclysm Tony Early channel, and we were discussing something, and it dawns on me. And I presented it to them, and they're like, that is interesting. And I'm going to go through that right now with you all. But it brings back the 1111. It literally combines all calendars together in a mathematical equation. It brings in the sliver moon, it brings in the full moon, it brings in the Enoch timeline. It brings all of them in together, and they all function. They all uh, coagulate together. They all seem to work. So, with that being said, I'm going to get into the pictures. I just want to do a special thank you to Dr. Barry for the years of work you have done. I don't think you owed anyone an apology. I believe your heart was always in the right place, in that you have simply tried to go into the Bible, and the stuff you found, half of it's on my timeline. It's absolutely amazing. So I don't think you owed anybody an apology. You did exactly what God sent you to do, and that was to try to figure this out. And hopefully, with this little piece of information, it will confirm that Dr. Barry, in fact, was right. Dr. Barry uses the sliver moon. Others use the full moon. I use the Enochian, what they found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. We found a date in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and it matches my timeline. So I'm going to guess that this timeline is accurate. And I'm going to show you how it all works together. And something very unique happens in 2025. Something very unique happens with 1111. And I'm going to show that to you right now. And I'm hoping that some of you who are very mathematical and able to do this type of math will be in the comment section showing. Um, and again, I think we can literally figure out the exact minute that the rapture is going to happen based on this, what I'm about to present. So let me just show it to you. For you mockers who say we're not supposed to be looking at dates, then you're on the wrong channel. For those of you who say we can't know the day or the hour because God said so, you're on the wrong channel. You have ignored the passage that says, if you don't watch, I will come upon you as a thief. And that's exactly what you're doing. And I pray that the bride does not listen to you. Not that they would lose anything. They wouldn't lose anything. You can't harm anyone by making the statement that we are not supposed to watch and that we cannot know. You are harming no one but yourself. Because if that were true, we wouldn't have exact day counts from whenever Jesus was born. Um, I'm sorry, from the flood beginning 150 days, and it lands exactly at the cross. We wouldn't know that. We wouldn't know that Jesus was conceived on Christmas Day, and 280 days later, to the very day, on the first day of Tabernacles. If you don't use tabernacles, then quite frankly, you're using the wrong one because after trumpets, there's nothing that happens 8 days later. After atonement, there's nothing that happens 8 days later. But after tabernacles, 8 days later is Shemini Atzeret. It's the great eighth day. And guess what happened on that day? October 7th. That's the day that Israel was attacked. So time and time again, very important things will come up and they will land on the timeline. But as I have just discovered, the sliver moon and the full moon also make a play in this. And I'm going to show that to you right now. Let's get to the pictures. Uh, there we go. Keep going. It's almost up out of the way. Sorry about this. Happens to me every time. There it goes. All right. Now, did you know that 11 years ago, Rosh Hashanah, what they call Rosh Hashanah, they did not obey Exodus 12. This is actually the Feast of Trumpets, did land on September the 24th. The problem is that with this, why didn't the rapture happen? Because this event happened before where it landed on this day, the sliver moon. Why didn't the rapture happen? But sometime between September the 24th and October the 7th, Shemini Atzeret. But we have an 11-year gap between. Now, I didn't go into detail. This is what I'm hoping that those of you that are mathematical will do. But we didn't see a rapture in 2014. Of course, for a plethora of reasons. It wasn't the Jubilee year. Israel was not 77. The wars that we're seeing now, we didn't see back then. The earthquakes, the ring of fire is coming to life. We didn't see that. We didn't see all the sun activity going on. I would imagine that the 1111 that people have been seeing, I mean, I've seen it since I was a child, but it really came to life in the last few years type stuff. Didn't happen. Remember when we talk about Joshua, people like to call him a false prophet, but unfortunately, you're wrong. There were millions of children who saw a rapture date of 2324. They saw that. Were they lied to? No. When God looks at an event, he looks at the entire event as one. That's why we see those people that were in the graves, they rose. And then after Jesus rose, they rose. Why 3.5 days apart? Because he's looking at the entire event. Why is it when you read about Noah, it looks like God said, get into the ark because it's going to rain, and God shut the door. But he didn't. He said, get into the ark now. And he shut the door when it began to rain on October the 31st. He sat in that ark with the door open for 7 days. But when God looks at the event, and here we are trying to get into the mind of God, which is very difficult, but that's what we see. And I think we see the same thing here when it comes to the rapture. While the rapture did not happen on September the 23rd, 24th, it's the entire event. It's a 14-day event. Remember, Jesus was born 4,000 years and 14 days after Adam was created. Why the 14 days? Well, I'm going to show you right now why the 14 days, I think. Let me see what's next. These pictures, I apologize, are all out of order. Yes, that happened this morning. I got a notification. I was watching TV with my grandson. We were watching Moana 2. It was awesome. I've only seen it 9,000 times. I could recite it. I could completely recite Moana 2. As I'm laying there, my phone lights up. And what does it say? An earthquake. Another one. 11:11. This could have happened at 11:10, 11:12, but it didn't. It happened at 11:11. So what is 11:11 trying to tell us? What's it trying to tell us that we're all seeing this? Is it something demonic? Is it from God? I would say that it's from God because Satan is not going to do anything to harm his chances at what he wants to accomplish. A house divided against itself. He will not bring anyone to Christ. He won't do it. So I don't believe that September 23rd, 24th was from Satan. I think it was from God, and I think God was viewing an entire event, and that entire event lasted 14 days. Did you know, and this is a text I sent to Kevin and Tony, that every single year that goes by, the Julian calendar separates itself from the Gregorian calendar by 11 minutes. Exactly 11 minutes. It gets further and further apart by 11 minutes every single year. And this is where the math comes in. I'm going to show you a few things. Last year, not only didn't it match with trumpets for them, because trumpets didn't land on September the 23rd last year. So this year it did. On my static timeline, it was 11 minutes too soon. And next year, it will be 11 minutes too late. Something about 2025 makes it fit perfectly. From the minute when Jesus began his ministry on atonement to the minute he was named and baptized on Shemini Atzeret is exact only in 2025. Something about that 11 minutes that separates the Julian calendar from the Gregorian calendar. We all know it's right at about 14 days right now. The same amount of time that the sliver moon took to get from the sliver moon to the full moon. The same amount of time that it took to get from what they call trumpets to what the Julian calendar calls trumpets, what I call atonement, to Shemini Atzeret. Why would God do that? Allow that math to happen from trumpets and not from my timeline on Shemini Atzeret, from atonement to Shemini Atzeret? Because the Bible does not tell us, neither does it in any extra biblical book that I can find, what time of day it was when Jesus began his ministry on the Day of Atonement. It also doesn't tell us what time of day Jesus was named and circumcised on Shemini Atzeret, the last day of Tabernacles, the great eighth day. So what do we need to look at? Well, in 2025, I believe that 11 minutes per year has added up to a perfect 14 days, showing that, and this is where the math comes in, showing that trumpets, what they call trumpets, began at nightfall on September the 23rd, went for 7 days or 14 days to now what the Julian calendar will call trumpets at sunset on October the 6th. Exactly 14 days. The same exact 14 days for my atonement to Shemini Atzeret. But this, using trumpets, will give us exact math because it begins at sunset and it ends at sunset. Shemini Atzeret, or Shemini Atzeret begins at sunset on October the 6th. So because of those 11 minutes a year, last year it was 11 minutes too soon, not to mention trumpets didn't line up like it does now. You remember that rudimentary math that they did that everybody loved because of its simplicity, and that was the count of 2,550 days, which passed. But did it? Was it pointing at, when God speaks of an event, he looks at the entire event, was it speaking of the entire 14-day period as being trumpets because of this Gregorian and Julian math? Now, he hates their new moons and their feast days. He wants to vomit it out because they got it wrong. It is not trumpets. It is atonement to Shemini Atzeret. However, God will use everything in his favor. While Satan did this mess to our calendars, one thing holds true, that trumpets will begin at sunset, and trumpets will begin at sunset on both calendars, and they will be exactly perfect only in 2025. In 2026, it'll be 11 minutes too late. In 2024, it'll be 11 minutes too soon. So that is the task at hand for anybody who's mathematical. If you were to calculate from Jesus's time, 2,000 years, 11 minutes per year, exactly how far off are we? I haven't done it. It's not my 48. That's not my strength. And does it equate to exactly sunset of the Julian and sunset of the Gregorian and sunset of the Julian? You see where I'm going with this? If you're not mathematical, please go into the comments section, because there's going to be an amazing group of people who are very mathematical. This is their piece of the puzzle. What we could do is glean and learn from their piece of the puzzle, which I have firmly believed in that all along, that I am not going to be the one to bring you the date of the rapture. That Amos 3:7 will be fulfilled ultimately by God. And all of this information comes out of the Bible. The timeline Jesus was on was the Julian. The timeline we are on is the Gregorian. What is the distance or the difference between the two dates while using 11 minutes a day? And can you prove that 2024 and 2026 will not match? Number one, it wasn't trumpets, so it couldn't have matched. It wasn't trumpets according to the silver moon and the new moon. It's not trumpets on mine. It's atonement to Shemini Atzeret. So I would be curious about any of you who could do that math. The Julian calendar drifts from the true tropical year by approximately 1 day every 128 years, whereas the Gregorian calendar is more accurate, with a drift of about 1 day every 3,226 years. This difference means the Julian calendar gained roughly 10 to 12 days. It's actually 11. I've said 10 and a half for a while. I know it's more than 10, and I knew it was less than 11. So somewhere around 11 days, roughly 11 days by 1582, which is why they moved it from October 4th to October the 15th, 11 days. Leading to the adoption, that just because they moved it doesn't mean there wasn't 12 hours or 6 hours, and there's 11 minutes a year in there somewhere. They just use a generality, trying to delete the Julian calendar and impose the Gregorian calendar to take it over, which is in and of itself is not a bad thing, because the Gregorian does fix the Julian. But if you continue on with the Julian, you'll see by now in the year 2025, at 11 minutes a year, we are in fact 14 days apart. This 11-minute discrepancy per year caused the calendar to become out of sync with the seasons, and it did. But I'm wondering if it's not by design. They just did a basic 365.25, which gave us that leap year, and we did a 365.2422, which compensated for that 11 minutes a day right there, if we fixed it with the Gregorian. But interestingly enough, trumpets to trumpets, Gregorian to Julian, at 11 minutes per day, this might be what God was pointing us all to with all those 11s. 11 days here, 11 minutes here. It's when I saw this, I was like, all right, there's some serious math in here. And anybody who's into this type of math will have a field day with this information. This guy right here is what started the whole thing. Barley Harvest. He's a very well-spoken, chooses his words, almost William Shatner-esque, chooses his words as he speaks, but he does a very good job. And he's the one that started talking about the two moons, the sliver moon and the full moon. Could that have been what God was pointing everyone that saw the two moons? Was he saying, look, the sliver moon to the full moon, and it only matches in 2025 because of those 11 minutes a day? I don't know. But he made a very good video, and this is the video that Kevin and Tony and I were talking about while, as a matter of fact, I believe, let me see something here. Esther two moons. I think that I was talking to Brett a little bit about it as well. But while I was literally getting to the end of watching this, Tony's like, you guys got to listen to this video. So I text him back, says, I've been listening to it. He's like, how? It just came out. I'm like, no, it came out 12 hours ago and I'm subscribed. So I was listening to it. But his video is very good. And he talks about the two moons. So very interesting that the sliver moon and the full moon land an exact amount apart between the Gregorian and the Julian, working on those 11 minutes a day. There is some serious math in there. Sister Sandy did me. Remember how I've been talking about overlaying the 6 months? And she just did that. This is an overlay of the 6 months right here. This is the first week and the 27th week. Every 6 months has 26 weeks in it, 364 days or 52 weeks. You can build your own timeline. You can start whenever you want. You can put whatever you want on there. And I have done a million of them, and I've worn out erasers trying to figure out the head of the year until I finally found March 17th. It is the only date, March 17th, where Jesus goes to the cross on a Wednesday and creation, I'm lost, creation begins on a Sunday. It's the only calendar that does that. All right. So she overlaid it for me. And here we come down here. This is where we are right now. Exodus 12, God moved the head of the year. It is, we didn't live those 6 months. They don't exist, but they overlap. So the week of unleavened bread matches the week of tabernacles. The first day that the Jews left Egypt was on the 15th of Nisan. The first day that Jesus began being in the grave was on Nisan 15. On Tishri 15, Jesus was born. He was born exactly to the day on Tabernacles. And on the great eighth day, where's it at? Down here, Jesus was named and circumcised on October the 7th. The week of unleavened bread, you ever wonder why Jesus rose in the center of the week of unleavened bread? Well, it's because its mirror, it was October the 3rd. I said that's a very high watch day because October the 3rd, going into October the 4th, is when Jesus not only rose from the grave, but it is the date that Jesus went down to the temple at the Feast of Dedication. Many of you will call that Hanukkah, but I believe I proved it beyond a shadow of a doubt that it was actually the middle of Tabernacles that he went down. The Feast of Dedication in the Bible has never been attributed to a holiday called Hanukkah, but it has directly been attributed to a holiday that begins 1 week earlier than Tabernacles. What happened 1 week earlier than Tabernacles? If we were looking at this as an overlay, it would be the Jews leave Egypt. It would be the week of unleavened bread. So both of them would land absolutely perfectly right here. So it was a very high watch day for me. And it passed. And it passed. And of course, the comments come in. You were wrong. All right, Captain Obvious. So what are we going to do when we're wrong? We're going to keep trying to search and research and try to figure this out because God is a God of math. He's the one that created Fibonacci. He's the one that created the golden spiral, pi. He's the one that made all of that work. He alluded that to us in antiquity, and we know about it now. All right, let me keep going here. This one is the one she recently fixed, and I believe is already on uh, Discord. Where are we at right now? This is the first 6 months. This is the second 6 months. All she did was overlay the first week and the 27th week on the other timeline so we could see them overlay. We are now in the week of Tabernacles. Today is October the 5th. On October the 6th, Mary, who gave birth to Jesus, would have had to have a ceremony on the third day. On the seventh day. In this case, when a woman gives birth to a male child, she will hold a ceremony on the seventh day, and on the 33rd day, down here, she will be clean. Mary's ceremony on the seventh day landed on October the 6th. It had to. She had to do that ceremony in order to show up for Jesus to be named and circumcised on Tishri 22, which is October the 7th. October the 7th is exactly 2 weeks, 21 days from what I call trumpets. Not from what I call mathematically. It could only land here because creation had to begin here on a Sunday. Trumpets is Tishri 1, September the 15th. 21 days, does that 21 days bring any thought to your head about the angel being held up for 21 days? Right there, 21 days. It also is 14 days after what they said is trumpets right here, September the 23rd, 24, 7 days and 7 days, 14 days after the Revelation 12 sign, after the Day of Atonement. This is the day of Jesus ends the 40-day fast, Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. This Revelation 12 sign happened at sunset, and I had that extra day to contend with, like I always do, going between the solar calendar and the stellar calendar, just like we have this issue with the Gregorian and the Julian. We have to attempt to accommodate for it. But from atonement to Jesus being named and circumcised, October the 7th, is 14 days. And that in and of that, right in here somewhere, is that math of 11 minutes a day over the past 2,000 years. All right, let me see what else I have. I just wanted to show you that Jesus, mathematically, if he was conceived on December the 25th, which I believe he was, and I believe in this year of 3 BC or 4 BC, depending on how you count that 0 year, you will find that Hanukkah had moved to December the 25th in that year. Kevin looked it up and he said, yes, in fact, Hanukkah had moved to December the 25th in 4 BC. So, how long is the perfect gestation period? It is 40 weeks. Exactly. It is exactly 40 weeks to the day, 280 days. Jesus was born on September the 30th. September the 30th is Tabernacles. That's when he was born. He had to be born on a date where an event took place 8 days later. Jesus spilled his blood for us the first time while he was 8 days old on Shemini Atzeret, the great 8th day. This is the first day of Tabernacles. October the 7th is the 8th day of Tabernacles, the self same day. That's the day that Jesus spilled his blood for us. So that would be 288 days from conception to his birth, 280 days, September the 30th. This could be, if I recall, could be applied to us. Wherefore God also hath highly exalted him and given him a name which is above every name. No, it's not us, Jesus. That at the name of Jesus, every knee should bow, and of things in heaven, things of earth, and things under the earth, and that every tongue should confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. No doubt who Jesus is and what he came here to do. The cup has been handed to you. Will you drink from the cup? Self same day. Whenever you see self same day, what it's referencing simply is that it's the same day of the week. Noah was told to get into the ark on the 25th of October, and in the self same day, the flood was on the earth, meaning he's told to get in on a day. Let's say it's Monday. The following week, on a Monday, God shut the door and the flood began. That's what self same day means. I don't want to get off too far off topic, and I don't want the video to go out too long and change the topic of this. I simply wanted to show you that when God looks at an event, he looks at the entire event as one moment in time. Noah was 600 years old when the flood waters were upon the earth, and Noah went in, and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him into the ark because of the waters of the flood. That looks like he went in on October the 31st when the flood began, doesn't it? And it came to pass after 7 days that the waters of the flood were upon the earth. God is viewing this entire scenario as an event, as one day. One day would equal 7 days in this scenario, right? Because he said, are we? It's our understanding. It's the way God delivered us this information, and he does this on purpose. And I think he's done this in a fashion like this so that we would look at this trumpets as one event, 2 days, 14-day event. I think that's what is happening here and why we aren't quite seeing it. What's going on? For yet 7 days I will cause it to rain upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. He is telling him on October the 25th to get into the ark, even though it clearly says that the self same day he went into the ark, 600 years old, and his wife's sons, and got him into the ark because of the waters of the flood. So what is going on here? Did he go into the ark because of the waters of the flood and God shut the door on the October the 31st? Because we know that's when the flood started. It says Heshbon 17. Or did he go in a week earlier because the flood was going to come? You see what I'm saying? This is where people will argue with me, say, no. He went into the ark on the same day it started to flood. The Bible says so. No, he didn't. He was told, the Lord said unto Noah, come thou and all thy house into the ark, for thee I have seen righteousness before me in these generations. And he talks about what to load. For yet 7 days, and I will cause it to rain upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. It can't be any clearer. He sat in that ark with an open door for 7 days. God shut the door because of the flood. When God speaks of this 7 days, he is speaking of the entire event as one day. The same thing happens here. And we've had many a discussion over this same thing. What happened here? And the graves were opened, and many bodies of the saints which slept arose. Up here, I cut it off by mistake, but the earth, there was a huge earthquake, and the rocks rent, and it got dark for 3 hours when Jesus died on the cross, right? And then we argue, well, then the graves were open, and many of the bodies of the saints which slept arose and came out of their graves after his resurrection and went into the holy city and appeared unto many. Very confusing, isn't it? It looks like they rose and just kind of sat around the graveyard, no food, no water, 3.5 days, dying of thirst, dying of hunger. They just sat there, rose from the graves, and waited because they could not come out of their graves until after his resurrection. Is this possibly talking to an event that will last for 3.5 years? I say that they begin to show up in heaven right away. There's no waiting. They die, they go to heaven. To be dead, absent from the body is present with the Lord. They kneel down, they come out of the graves, they see this rapture happen. They weren't included. I have a bill of sale. Why didn't I go? Drop to their knees, say, Lord, please. Elijah and Elisha. Elisha drops to his knees, tears his clothes, puts on the cloak from Elijah, and receives a double portion, and goes on to work great things. So my argument would be that these graves are opened at the day of the rapture. They will appear in heaven, but it will be 3.5 years before they receive their bodies. They will be under the altar complaining in seal 5. And he says, hold on, wait until the rest of your people come in, until the rest of the Gentiles be fulfilled. I think that they're going to begin filling up under the altar for the first 3.5 years. And that moment that we're raptured, people are going to die, and they're going to have a moment where they can either take that cup or throw the cup down. They're going to willingly take the cup and say, yep, I messed up. Jesus and Jesus alone. And then they're going to go to heaven after they die. And I think that period of time is going to end over the course of the 3.5 years. I had thought previously that it happened very quickly. But in reading this verse right here, it appears to me now that it does happen very quickly. A lot of people are going to appear in heaven without their bodies immediately after the rapture occurs. But they won't get those bodies, their new bodies, until after the 3.5 years. But in seal 5, we see that they're giving a white garment. So there's some stuff in there we need to unpack. Not negating what we need to study for. Most importantly is those 11 minutes. That's why I didn't want to get into all of this. I think I'm actually going to stop there and not get into all of that. If you look around, you can see it's coming. There is no doubt. So far, nobody's been able to figure it out, but we're trying. We're trying. And I think this right here makes a lot of sense as to what's going on. It's my calendar. No, it's mine. It's the sliver moon. It's the full moon. It's the static timeline of the Qumran Dead Sea Scrolls. It's this, it's that. What if it's just 11:11? And it's just a mathematical equation that somebody can sit down and figure out and tell us, well, at sunset on September the 23rd and at sunset on September the 6th or October the 6th, I think it is, I'm not sure, would be the two trumpets. Can't figure it out from atonement to Shemini Atzeret because we don't know what time those events happen, but you can figure it out from trumpets because we know it begins at sunset. And those 11 minutes a day, do they cause a palindrome? Do they cause something to equal out just in 2025 and in no other year? Those 11 minutes a day every year, the next time trumpets, or I think they call it Rosh Hashanah, whatever they call it, would land on September the 23rd, and make a similar thing that's just happened. Even that rudimentary math of 2550, I think they said it never happens again, right? So I wonder if 2025 is the only year that would happen. So go to a quiet place. Nobody needs to know, and you don't need to tell anybody except the Lord in your heart. You're out of time. You are out of time, and the rapture is about to occur. And maybe it was already figured out as to being October because of the Julian. It woke me up with the 11:11 thing. So at any rate, I guess we will see here very shortly. If I find anything else out or somebody makes a good comment and does some math, I will come back on here and share it with you. We'll chat with you all again later.